What's up, poker people? This is Funchampion in the house, and today is day 27 of 66-day series of hand reading that we are doing, smashing it out of the park every day with these study sessions. To begin with, uh, I continue on studying from different tools, different sources, and I also plan to make a couple of videos introducing you all and introducing all the new people to some material which you can probably watch and learn from or start your journey of learning for free. I mean, you don't have to put in money right away. You could probably take a feel of it, take the important concepts, try to use them in your game, work on your game. If you see some benefits, some gains, you can probably think of going for paid resources, paid courses and stuff like that. But I feel something that I didn't have direct exposure to as a newbie in the poker world a few months ago. Uh, an absolute newbie. I'm still a newbie, but a few months ago, I would have loved to have those resources to begin with. So if you are looking at, you're confused, you want to learn about poker, you want to look at, resources in terms of, uh, you can start following, you can continue following, and you can keep following even when you are good in the game. So stick around, we'll make a few videos or some content on that basis as well. All right, so today's exercise is day 27, and as you can see in the title, it's three betting from the small blind, getting called by the button stealer. So let's get into the action.
Before. It doesn't matter. You can get Equilab for free, and you could just start ranging people and narrowing.
That's exactly what we are doing. Sky is saying we have to take action. So he's doing all these hand reading, series for us. He's showing us how he's going through the process, and what essentially we need to do is, along with following what he's saying, building our own thought process, pausing videos in between, giving it a thought, and actually saying it out loud probably helps. It helps me for sure, because I say it out loud, and many times you realize, oh no, only I was thinking in a very flawed manner. Maybe I was playing too scared money, maybe I was playing overly aggressive and not paying attention to the odds that I'm getting. So stuff like that needs to go through our system, it needs to come out. And for that, like Sky is saying, I totally agree with it. That's why I have Equilab pulled up all the time, and I'm ranging it. I am also using it to my maximum potential of using it, and trying to also show you guys how we can make most use of Equilab. Probably another video for that is also due, because there's so many hidden gems found in Equilab that also needs some amount of sharing with the community. All right, so we'll continue with this exercise today.
The range through the streets on your own. You don't need Poker Tracker 4, nor do you need Flopzilla. Those are just the tools that I use to make things a little bit easier for myself, because they're good tools to use. So today is day 27 of 66, the villains range. Now you can see on the screen, so far I've tagged all the different hands that we've gone over.
All right.
If you want to look at the hand,
Let's go. Next.
And then there's the Flopzilla, of course.
Yes, indeed.
My two tools, and then of course the hand history from Poker Tracker 4. So, what is 877-99478? Who we've faced. So you get quite a wide stealing range. We decided 3-bet right here.
All right. So about steals, I did a little bit of reading beforehand about steals. It is essentially, taking down the pot without looking at a flop, and making maximum use of the position, usually done from the button. So here in this case, this particular player on the button is going for 0.7. So not really even 3x of the big blind, not 3 blinds, but something like 2.x of big blinds. And that is usually aimed at taking down the flop, taking down the pot here itself, since small blind may or may not have decent hands, and big blind may not defend as much as they should, and they'll just end up folding, and the blinds will be collected by this guy pre-flop. So that is what is essentially stealing, because it's stealing the blinds, which don't belong to them. And if we are trying to attack that steal, which means that we are going to charge them even more money to look at the flop by three betting them. So we are essentially attempting a re-steal, or we have a good hand which can actually play out of position versus the button, and we are charging the button more money to even look at the flop. So that those are the two things to keep in mind. Let's continue.
You can see it's a pretty healthy size 3-bet for sure. And then a call. So before, well, we could just look at that call right there. So let's see what they fold versus 3-bet from the button. So raise and fold on the button 50% of the time, which is only 1 out of 2. So
All right, time and again, Sky talks about the HUD, heads up display, talks about stats, talks about how much they do a certain action. And almost every time, Sky has also talked about how frequently was a particular stat recorded, and how much faith should we put in that stat. Like, for example, if they have 4 bet just once in 1,000 hands, which means probably uh, we might just say that they 4 bet a lot less. But if they haven't had the opportunity to 4 bet, if there was no situation which showed up where they could 4 bet enough, the stat would not be accurate enough. But over 1,000 hands, it could have some merit to consider it as a decent stat. Over 100 hands, probably not. So here in this case, we have 284 hands on this player, and fold to 3 bet percentage is 50. However, there have only been 2 instances where this player was 3 bet, and out of those 2 instances, in 284 hands, he has folded once and played once. So that literally doesn't mean anything in this case. So take all these very minute or very detailed stats with a grain of salt until there is enough sample size built around them. Successful. All right, we are back online, guys. Sorry for the lag. If there was a lag and you couldn't follow, I had stopped talking because I saw that notification right away. And we are back online, and cool. Okay, we'll just continue. So I was talking about these stats, and it's also important to see how they are playing in that particular session. If the session is going on for about half an hour, 1 hour, we have some amount of orbits, we have some amount of hands, or probably a few showdowns that we see from them, and we see whether they are in distinctly different mood today, or whether they are playing very different from their stats. Like, you expect somebody to play super loose, you expect somebody to play 40% of hands they are dealt, like VPIP is 40, and you see that 2 or 3 orbits are gone and they haven't played a single hand, and in one orbit, excuse me, in one orbit, they end up playing probably a hand, and they at showdown they just show whatever is queen suited, and show some aggressive play. It could very well be that they are also working on their game, and the stats that you're seeing are not really a perfect representation of how they are playing today. So evolving game is also another concern that we need to address while we are looking at stats. All right, lot of stuff that I've heard in many places is coming together in this video, but I'm sure all of us are following along. If not, we can always put it in chat and put it up for discussion. For now, we look at this 3-bet fold percentage is 50, and we don't put much stock in it. So we 3-bet, they call, and we move ahead.
We're going to narrow their range a little bit. So first off is their opening range, right? We'll start with the 45%. So, I'm sorry, not narrow the range a little bit. We're not going to be able to use that fold to 3-bet stat all that much. It looks like, in general, folding to 3-bet, just in position, wow, they don't like to fold to 3-bets hardly at all, just in general, right? So we're going to keep a pretty wide range. Kayatic might feel that, hey, I have position. I'm going to call and maybe utilize my position to steal a pot later in this bloated pot. So we're going to actually keep Chaotic on a pretty wide range. Not super wide, but pretty wide. Um, so when they decide and then open, I'm sorry, when they decide to open and then call the 3-bet, let's actually look at our call 3-bet ranges here. We'll go to kind of a wider range. Whoops, that's 3-bet, dang it. Call 3-bet. Here we go. Start with this wider range right here.
All right, first of all, I'm gonna assign this range to them, this opening range on the button, if since they are loose, and like 40 percentage is a fair percentage of combos for them to open from the button, and also aiming for a steal. If that's the case, then definitely all of these combos are opening. I would also say that they could be opening a little bit of more, uh, 8-6 suited, not 7-5 so much. Probably, yeah, probably all of this is in their open range.
Um, 2-betting is pretty wide right there, but let's take a look at those. What are they calling with? I think Chaotic's probably calling with every suited ace. Maybe not every offsuit ace, so let's leave those out. I think Chaotic, what is Chaotic's 4-bet 4-bet total? 25%, MP1, big blind 1, but nothing on the button so far. So let's say that 4-betting is probably queens. Let's keep both of the ace kings in the calling range. 284 hands. We haven't seen many 4-bets yet. Let's just keep it at a very tight 4-betting range.
All right, that's also important to note. In most cases here, we are excluding the absolute premiums when we are ranging them in terms of a slightly passive behavior, which is calling a 3-bet. That's not a passive behavior, but they probably consider super heavy premium cards for the 4-bet, essentially not too many bluffs in their 4-bet. So I'll follow the same pattern. I'll say they 4-bet aces, kings, and queens. All right, and I'll also say they 4-bet ace, king suited. Let's do that, and let's remove. I mean, I'll choose to remove all of these hands from their range as discussed. They won't be calling a 3-bet in position with ace 9 off. Fair enough. King 10 off. Yeah, that's what I think. No jack 10, no 10 9 off. Queen jack off is also kind of sketchy in my opinion, because 3-betting hands, the non-bluff ones, will usually dominate queen jack off pretty bad. Let's remove that. I'll remove this as well. All right, these hands in there. Calling range, all the suited eights I just remove, and probably a lot of suited kings I'll remove. Queen 9 suited, all this is fine. All this is fine. This is a good range. I have reconstructed their range now from 39% to whatever, 17, 20%, almost 18%. So this seems fine. Let's proceed.
So let's say they're calling with a few others. Let's not call with the king 10 offsuit.
All right.
9-7 suited, 5-4 no. Let's say 7-6 suited is the weakest suited connector. They're opening and then calling.
Fair enough.
Now remember, they're in position, obviously, and they like to steal. C bets a whole lot. They probably they're just aggressive overall, just in general, aggressive player. So if we see here, aggression factor and aggression frequency, this is my Assassinato HUD. So aggression factor, flop turn river, as a total it's 3.2%, and frequency is 65%. So they love to use that aggression. And then so we can expect a lot of post-flop aggression, trying to take away pots from us for sure. So they could be calling with a relatively wide range. Now, for myself, I'm not calling with a ton of these hands, but we're going to put Chaotic on kind of a slightly wider range here for calling. Oh, wait, before I copy this, let's see here. I'm going to keep off all the offsuit aces. King 9, it's possible. King 9 and Queen 9, but I'm not going to put those in. King 10, I can see all the suited broadways. Offsuit, I don't like these as calls. Some people call them, but I'm not going to say Chaotic calls that wide.
Makes sense.
Right there. All the suited aces, of course, because
My
who doesn't
noob
love
opinion
flopping a
agrees with
flush
his
draw
pro
or flopping a
opinion.
flush and then playing in position, getting max value out of your hand versus a 3-better. So, yep, we're good here. Copying that range. It's 18%, 240 combos. I call. Pocket aces. If we do 7, what is 84% equity? What if we had kings? 77. What if we had queens? 74%. So you can see any of those standard 3-betting hands. I definitely have a very good shot at winning this pot versus that range. But we're going to keep myself on the aces. Makes sense to me.
Also, it makes sense to understand that most of our non-paired 3-bet hands like ace queen off, or probably ace 5 suited as a bluff 3-bet hand, or even ace 10 suited if we choose to 3-bet with that hand, king jack suited or queen jack suited if we choose to 3-bet with that hand. Those hands are particularly not super strong versus this range. Let's just do that. Let's just evaluate a little bit. Oh, okay, anybody at all should be easy. All right, so queen jack is about 45%. If we choose king queen instead, we are at 50%. Shimul Bala, hello, welcome to the stream. Pranjal Raut, will his calling range change with his or our stack depth? Absolutely, absolutely it will, because right now we are the review sessions that we are following, or the hand reading sessions we are following from Sky SmartPokerStudy, are essentially deep stacked games. These are actually cash games, but they translate so well in the early stages, or even in the early to middle stages of a tournament where we have 80 plus blinds. Everybody has those many blinds, and still gives us a good basis to understand opponent behavior. Sure, few combos could be shaved off. Few combos would directly go jamming all in, like 30 bigs, and if this is the case and they have whatever is king off, whatever, they can easily jam. Again, short stack poker becomes significantly different in terms of ranging opponents in such a manner. But here we are deep stack. We are playing like almost what 100 bigs right now. Yeah, 80, 90 bigs plus. So right now that is not the concern. The concern is we are going to play 3 streets. How are we going to get stacks in by the river? And it's basically planning out playing 3 streets of poker, and that probably helps span it out a little bit. It will definitely get condensed in the tournament scenes if you will, but this is a good baseline to start basing our understanding on.
So let's see what comes on the flop.
I was saying in terms of king queen suited, we are 50%. If we are 3-betting with our queen jack combos, suited ones, we are about 45%. So like he discussed, if we are going 3-betting with like kings or something, then we are definitely much better placed versus their tight, fairly tight 3-bet calling range, which is still devoid of the best possible three best possible hands, 4 best possible hands in their range, because they did not 4-bet, which makes their range capped. Yes, we have been reading and studying poker quite a bit, so we can use all these good sounding words. All right, so small blind. Let's put in if we have actually used a bluff 3-bet hand, we are not looking particularly great versus their entire range. Still, we do have 45%, which is pretty similar to queen jack and king jack kind of hands. But if we are at the bottom of that 3-bet range, even with jacks, still we have 70%. So pocket pairs would fare a lot better versus their entire range. And let's continue.
Flop queen 5-7 diamond club spade. There we go. Queen 5-7 diamond club spade. So on this board, if we have the overpair, 87% favorite. killer, man. I mean, they have plenty of queens in their range. They have a lot of second pairs, a couple of sets in the range as well, but not top set. So it's not like they have a nut hand right now. If Kaetic has pocket sevens or fives for a set, then of course Kaetic feels like it's the nuts. I could have pocket queens in my range because three betting queens is a possibility for me.
True.
Well, let's see what happens. I decide to bet
True.
2/3 pot, and Kaetic just calls. So on this board right here, what is Kaetic just calling? Oh, let's look at stack sizes. 17 and then 14 behind. Kaetic doesn't have to force any action to try to get the stack all the way in if they have like a set of fives, set of sevens, even 5-7 two pair, even though we don't have that in their range at all. I mean, if they had some kind of a strong hand that can beat pocket aces or kings right now, they don't have to be raising. So we can say that they are calling with just about
everything.
Well, with every single one of their strong hands, because
all right, another interesting aspect that we all probably have missed quite a bit in Equilab is this little tab over here. If you guys haven't used it, I encourage all of you to use it. This is essentially hand strength distribution and hand range reduction tab from our range tab. So we close this again. The buttons range, this is the buttons range. We can see it's about 213 combos. All right, let's just note it down. I'll note it down in my notepad. Just a second. Oh, what did I say? It is 213 combos. Oh. And out of that, whatever it is, 18.11%. all right, I noted it down. Now we can go in, let's just say okay, we can go in this tab of hand distribution and strength, range reduction. Let me just expand this a little bit for better legibility. Guys who have joined today, guys who are just checking this out, this is an absolute winner of a tab when doing hand reading and actually going through streets trying to take a few hands out of their range. For example, if we want to say that two overcards are not exactly calling the bet that we put in the pot, which is 4 into a pot of 6, so 66% bet. Two overcards, let's say for some reason they are not calling, or let's just say one overcard like probably ace or a king x, ace x is not calling if they don't connect with the board. Then what we need to do is just remove this, so it will remove all the combos which only have one overcard. Now remember, even with one overcard on the board, there could still be some draws, some gut shots, some backdoor flush draws. Those draws will still be retained. Now what do we mean by that is, take modified range in, and if we see 207 combos, so few combos with some ace x, some irrelevant king x probably have been removed from the range. Now let's try and see if we can actually find out which. At this point it doesn't really matter, but still, hold on, just give me a sec. Could have also taken a screenshot. It's not exactly letting us see that. 207. All right, let's remove something that's much more noticeable. So let's say, so let's say one pair, top pair hands, for some reason we are going to remove. So if we uncheck this particular box, it's immediately showing all these combos as yellow, which means they're not included. We could very well click on this and include that combo. You can immediately, oh shit, sorry. So This is the one that we were talking about. If we remove this, it is going to make all these boxes yellow. For some reason, if you want to include ace, queen of hearts, you can just click here and that will be included in the range selection. As you can see, it is reflecting over here as well. Let me show you. There we go, ace queen of hearts included. All right, and we can take that range back and we can take a look. Now we have excluded few more hand combos, which is now 186. So that's how we'll follow along with Sky's Flopzilla. We can catch up with our Equilab version with removals of some hands in our range. All right, let me just reduce this Equilab window to the minimum. All right.
Because it's not a wet board either. So they're calling with every one of their strong hands and a lot of possible draws or kind of like marginal stuff that doesn't want to give up just yet. Oh, the C bet is the fold to C bet in position is only 50%, 2 out of 4 so far. So really, Kayak doesn't like to give up on one street. Maybe on the turn they give up. So they're calling 2/3 pot with their sets, calling with yes, even Queen 10 because hey, we could have Ace King right here, and we're
Sure.
firing one street with Ace King. Their Queen 10 currently beats us, so that's
Right.
possible. Pocket pairs, those all. A lot of players like to call on the flop with the second pocket pair, thinking that maybe we have Ace Jack, Ace King, Ace 10. That is just firing a bluff C bet. So those are possible to call with right now for sure. Well, let's look at percentage form as we're going, because as we saw already, they like to fold. Not like to, but they fold to C bets roughly 50% of the time. So we're going to
All right.
probably get this percentage to roughly 50% that they're continuing with. Those weak sevens? It's possible. They can continue one street with those weak pairs of sevens right there. Now, weak pairs, the under pair, the third pocket pairs, deuces, threes, and fours, and the pair of fives, we're not going to put any of those in the calling range. Ace 5 suited, sure. If it's like a backdoor draw, we can put that in down here, but not as just a pair of fives. Gut shots, 98. 98 could make the call. Over cards? Oh, Ace King totally just make the call right here. That they did not decide to 4-bet with pre-flop totally. And the 2-card backdoor flush. Which is actually quite a lot of hands, but a lot of them are ace highs. We got king highs. We have a pair of queens with backdoor power. So yeah, let's give them Kayatic all of these hands. So it's actually 63% of hands that we say they're continuing.
That's an interesting way to think of how much of their range they are continuing. We usually calculate some sort of formulation in terms of if we bet some X amount, we can calculate some minimum defense frequency or percentage of their range, essentially, that they're going to continue with to that bet. That's an usual scenario where we assume that our opponent is actually thinking in these terms, but it is also fair to assume from the stats, if they are continuing always 50%, half of their hands, even to any C bet, which means at least half of their range they are taking forward, and it makes sense to put in a bucket all the hands which connect with the board in some way. Makes sense that they continue with those 50%, and the remaining 50%, which are probably junk, few draws, few gut shots, or few far-fetched draws of some kind could easily fold to those C bets. So in this case, he's going with the probably these are also linked, but he's going with the C bet, calling C bets percentage, which is 55, and he's trying to justify the 55% range that can definitely call versus a 66% pot size bet. All right.
Got 109 combos. So,
and we ended up taking 63% of their range, so probably wider than what they would, but the part of the range that makes sense to us, we are continuing.
oh, wait a second. On the flop, narrow them down to this. Whoops, we haven't done it yet. So once you click this, it activates the filter. So if we narrow them down to this 109 hands, our equity with the overpair is still pretty darn good at 83% because they have so many under pairs and second pairs
Sure.
and just draws, backdoor draws and stuff in their range right now. So it makes sense that we are way ahead at this point. The turn gives us the lovely, maybe not so lovely, King of Spades. Now that turned a few of their top pair hands into two pairs now, all those various king queens in their range, which are totally capable of calling the 3-bet
Sure.
and then calling the flop c-bet faux show. So given that king of spades right there, it doesn't help us at all. It doesn't add any equity with a backdoor draw. It's not like this was a 10 and we had a backdoor straight draw. So
Right.
our equity dropped to 78% on this king because
That's
all the
interesting.
king does is it helps their range, doesn't help us in any way. And then we can actually see that. Whoops. Let's say this king didn't hit yet. Hotness chart out here. So you can see hotness describes how the next board card on the turn or the river will affect equities. Green means 100% equity for the range. Red
All
means
right.
100%.
Hold on. Let me do something that will absolutely be amazing. Just a second. Here in Equilab, also we have something similar. Equilab is just mind blowing. Probably Equilab should sponsor me a little bit for these videos. All right. So here in tools we have scenario analyzer, which is an awesome screen. Trust me on that one. So if this is the board and villain's range is this, and we have what do we have? We have to put some hand for us. Okay, we'll do that. King, queen, suited. No, we can't do that. Okay, king of hearts and queen of diamonds. Let's say, oh no, we can have that. Queen of clubs. No, what's happening? Wait a second. Queen of clubs. All right, we have that, and villain's range is this huge range. All right, so we can just click on analyze turn cards, and it shows up an amazing display of data. R/data is beautiful. So what is essentially doing is we can filter out which cards are the absolute best. This is insane, right? I mean, at this point of time we can stop believing that this is a free program, free app for us to analyze the absolute best or the hottest cards for either us or for them. And we can always look at the cards which are least favorite as well. It is just amazing, and we can remove certain uh, you know certain suits if we try and see if it's a club. What's the situation? Like, we are not happy with the club of ace of club. Okay, that's for some reason has a lot less equity if it arrives on the turn. And as against, if a king arrives on the turn, we are very happy because obviously we make two pair on the turn, and potentially they also connect with the king in some way, but king alone, not king queen. So we have top two pair on the board, and that absolutely makes us ecstatic. Next thing would be a paired 7, because then we have two pair and we have potential to make a full house probably. We also no, there's no backdoor flush draw happening, but yeah, for whatever reason we can include, exclude all these beautiful hands, beautiful cards, I mean, from various suits, and take a look at what is the best. So this is just amazing that we have this ability in Equilab as well. I mean, my mind was blown when we saw this. Random, do we have random card? No, random ranges exist, not the card. Classic. So if there's no flop, we definitely need a flop to have this sort of analysis. Let's put the flop again. 7 of spades and 5 of clubs. All right, and we can always analyze. We can also look at if we have king queen suited, or we have queen jack suited, queen of clubs and jack of clubs. In that case, how is the equity going to split? Let's analyze turn cards again. Now, right now we have equity of about 80% on this board, and in that case, what's essentially a good card on this board is, I don't know why, but it's going to be Heart of Jack of Hearts is much preferred right now. All right, and also Queen of Hearts is preferred, obviously, to make trips. 7 and a 7 or a 5 pairing the board. All right, all these cards are good. So the point is, all these tools and all these things we can use to our max advantage in a free program like Equilab. If you're not doing it, you're losing EV on this program. All right, I just minimize this further, get this to the side, and make it disappear. All right, we
percent
continue.
equity for the hand. And then so none of these are necessarily 100% good for their range, but a lot of them just don't help our hand at all. You know, if a jack comes, if a king comes, if a 10 comes, how does that help our overpair pocket aces? It really doesn't. You know, the only cards that we really love to see are those aces and some of these baby cards because those are way out of their range now. We
Right.
filtered them out. So that's how you use the hotness if you want to think about future streets and future cards and making plans for future cards. So, oh, was it King of Spades? I think. Yep.
All right. So recently, I've also started working with a thought process of playing the flop, thinking what cards on the turn would absolutely make us fold, what cards would make us happy, and what cards are really indifferent in terms of our consideration. Like if you are calling a big bet on the flop, and if you're thinking in terms of how we are going to continue on the turn and on the river, for that to happen, a crucial thing is what is the turn card. And if the turn card is absolutely detrimental to what we plan, we immediately have to resort to check calling or check folding. If, for example, we don't hold a club in hand, if there are already three clubs on the board, if the turn card is a club, it puts us in a very, very tough spot, because single card flush is very much real. We don't hold a single club, and even a deuce of club is good enough for them to win that hand. The only thing is then it becomes like, we whatever we have, top pair or whatever, trips or two pair, we just trying to redraw to make a better hand versus a flush, possible flush in their hand, and ultimately just end up having a bluff catcher with us, best case.
Good, good. So on that King of Spades, we have 78% equity. What happens? We're out of position. We decide to fire.
So completing that thought which I shared earlier, that we try to look at turn cards in terms of what is a favorable turn card, what is absolutely a bad turn card for us, and plan accordingly. And if there are too many cards on the turn that can spoil our party, then it makes sense to reconsider or plan the flop really well in terms of how we want to play. Do we want to put in more money in the pot? Do we want to check raise here where we are ahead, or do we want to take the passive line? Entirely up to us. Entirely up to how we are training ourselves to handle these situations. But it's important to consider uh, what cards would be good for us, what cards would be bad for us on the turn. And this tool, the what was the name of that? See, scenario analyzer on Equilab helps us put a picture in our head very clearly.
Less than a half pot bet, leaving 12 bucks behind, leaving roughly, it would leave roughly the same 12 bucks over here behind. I really feel like I'm going for value on this. I want a call by a random king, a random queen. I think I have a set of queens. I think that's what I have here. I think I flopped a top set. And because Kayatic is not flop honest, I fired the c-bet to get value out of him or her, is my guess at least. So 630.
Oh, wait a second.
So
If they are not flop honest, how are we firing another bet to get a value? It more of seems like we are putting in that bet to get value from good hands and actually make him fold most of his hands with uh, that bet. If they are not flop honest, if they are flop honest, then we can say we are betting to get value, because they clearly have something on the flop that they like. We would like to exploit that and extract value from them. Makes sense.
Him or her is my guess at least. So 630. So on this king of spades, what decides to call us? Oh, wait a second. Less than a half pot bet. So it could be a cheap bluff as well.
Mm-hmm.
What am I bluffing? Ace jack, ace 10, I guess? Which I'm not often. Ace 5 of spades. I
Yeah.
could be bluffing, like doing a double barrel here. I could have c-bet with an ace 5 of spades, backdoor flush draw, weak pair. Now the king of spades hits. Now I picked up a total flush draw. I still have the 5. An ace can give me 2 pair. A 5 can give me trips on the river. So I'm double barrel bluffing. That's possible. It feels like value for me. Like it feels like I'm sizing my bet smaller to get a call. But it could be sizing my bet smaller to make a cheaper bluff right here. So it's interesting. What decides to just call instead of shoving all in? You could see after this call, 27 bones in the pot, half stack behind, or half pot stack behind. Anything good, not anything good. Oftentimes, really good hands are going to want to shove here. And that's probably why I bet so small, because I want Kayatic to shove with some kind of weak 2 pair, a 5-7, a king queen. Well, king queen is not a weak 2 pair. I currently beat it with my set of queens if I have that. Or I possibly want them to bluff shove some kind of a flush draw on the turn there. So what are they not shoving and just calling? Straights can just call. Sets, they could be scared that we now have a set of kings or a set of queens with their undersets. So those can just make the call. 2 pairs, afraid of sets could just be calling here. Over pairs, top pairs, random kings, decent kickers, not the king 10 really, but those could just be calling, because you could have seen them call on the flop like a king jack or a king 10 with a backdoor straight draw. If you couple that with, like, maybe it was king jack of clubs, so that they had the backdoor straight plus the backdoor flush plus 1 overcard, it's possible that they're making that call. Mid pairs, all those queens. Man, are they calling a second street? It is a smaller bet, so I might be getting value out of those mid pairs. I might be. Which mid pairs might fold here? Ace queen is probably still calling another street. I'm going to keep all these in their calling
jack
range.
Off might.
I don't think Kayatic really likes to fold at all.
Queen jack
so
off,
let's
not
keep
so
them
much.
in.
Queen 10,
Weak
maybe.
pairs are folding now. Ace highs are folding. Flush draws, they're totally staying in. They just picked up equity.
A lot of equity.
They had a backdoor draw on the flop, hit the flush draw on the turn. There's no way they're giving up now. Open-ended.
Especially with the
only the jack 10.
Bet,
yeah,
right?
sure. The jack 10 could call gut shots. I don't think the gut shots are calling a second street. I mean, if you think about it, they need 24% equity.
Biswas.
The gut shot
Hello,
really
hello,
has
and welcome
like
to the stream
8%
and
equity. I mean, they're
handling
calling.
exercises.
It was mathematically, it's a really bad call. So let's
Good
keep
afternoon.
those out of the range right there. So, 61% and 62. We'll take a look at the equities in just a sec. And if I do have the overpair, we currently have 67%. Let's say I had pocket queens, which is what I think I have right now. 92% equity. We are killing it with pocket queens if that's what we've got, and we're going for max value. Oh, what if we have the ace 5 of spades that I think is possible too? A pair plus a backdoor that just now hit a flush draw.
Yeah.
Only 33%. We're basically it's a straight bluff right now if we did double barrel with the ace 5 suited. Cool beans. So,
all right, let's just do this another exercise where we say we have scenario analyzer. We pull up scenario analyzer. Can you guys see it? No, not yet. Okay, now you can. All right, so let's do this in Equilab. Let's say this has happened. Let's say we have ace of spade, 5 of spade, solid, and turn comes king of spade. All right, so what we are trying to do is, first of all, let's try and analyze turn cards. All right, and king of spade is definitely good, but not as good as 5 of diamonds or 5 of hearts, which would give us trips right away. Agreed. So let's say we do hit king of spades, and now you see the equity was 60% on this particular board. And let's just analyze river cards, and now we are 59%, so we picked up a little bit of equity. And as you can see, all these spades are making us are super hot for us. Like we have 100% equity on, like we basically win the pot against anything with these cards. We are very, very, very happy if these cards hit. All right. There are obviously no king and ace of spades because we have them in our hand, and essentially we are happy with all of these cards. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 cards are basically giving us amazing chance to win this spot, and probably 12, 13, 14. 14 cards are absolute favorites for us. So we can consider that from the overall possibilities. Like we can all look at all these possible cards that can come on the river and filter out these which have more than 60%, and that helps us understand a little bit more in terms of what we are liking. We probably might miss out a few things, like even if ace of diamond hits, we are fine, because then there are no obvious pairs on the board, and it is not it is less likely that we are actually going up against any kind of a full house situation. um all right, there's obviously no direct connectivity on the board either, so it's not as if we are afraid of any cards in particular. All right, so this is how we analyze the scenario, the river cards in Equilab. That's fascinating. Is actually a lot of stuff possible in Equilab. Bottom line, let me make this disappear and we'll continue.
Kayatic just calls, giving us a $27 pot, 11 bucks and 13 bucks. So it's pretty easy to get it all in here on a river queen of hearts. Great. Well, now, if we had the queens, we have clubs. Not clubs. I mean, if we have the queens, we have quads. We're killing this hand right now. If we do have pocket aces, it's actually a 50-50 chop right here on that river queen. Interesting. So what happens? So Kayatic has called 2 streets now. I check, and we get a shove, and I decide to call.
Are they likely having the queen?
If I had quads, I really do, or even if I had aces, I think checking is the best thing to do here to get Kayatic to commit, to bluff at it, and then we get max value. Well, Kayatic could often just be checking behind on this board. No, I think we have aces. I think my first read is right. We have aces, because I think if we had a super strong hand, a full house or quads, I think we've got to bet here at least another $6 just to get some value out of him, because
otherwise they could just check back and
probably
lose
checking
value
behind a ton of kings, not checking behind any queens, but checking behind kings, checking behind, of course, their busted flush draws. So I'm saying here, I don't have a super strong hand, but I'm check calling because I think I'm ahead of all the kings that could be shoving, or all the bluff flush draws that could be shoving. Busted flush draws, I mean to say. That's what I'm doing. So what here is shoving all in after we check? Full houses are shoving. Straights are shoving. 3 of a kind? I would say they're shoving here. Over pairs, top pairs. I think they can all shove. We showed weakness on the turn. They're just trying to, maybe by doing this, maybe they think we can call with pocket jacks or tens.
Sure.
And they're maybe just making some kind of a weird, like a thin value bet, thinking that they're repping a flush draw and then we'll call with our jacks or tens.
But
Weak pairs, I think those are checking behind. Ace highs, da-da-da. So all of this stuff, I'm thinking this is their shoving range. Oh, wait, ace highs. I want to include, and those are all the spades. Yeah. So maybe not.
At this point, I don't think we are going to fold, because I mean, even from their perspective, it shouldn't be that we are going to fold, because we have pretty much been committed to the pot with less than the pot size bet left behind. We have pretty much led on the flop and the turn, and on the river 13 bigs are not going to get us to fold most hands. So really, ace high betting into the pot doesn't really make so much sense to me. Neither does just a top pair. Top pair would just check and uh, take it down, or at least I would check top pair even in this situation when there's a paired board and we have faced two streets of bets from the pre-flop aggressor, who is also a three better in a pot. So top pair may not essentially be that good, in my opinion, in my point of view. So I would still check and probably lose some value like the fish I am, but I would take that less value over the risk of losing a lot more or the remainder of my stack. Top pair, I'm doing that. Over pair, I'm probably also doing that. I mean, like, yeah, I also like to think in the way we are taught to think in most scenarios. Like, if we bet top pair, what hands are calling us and what hands are really folding? So I don't think any worse hand is going to call. Ace high is not going to call to a top pair bet. Top pair is essentially blocking their top pair, so it's very less likely that we bet with king queen and we get called with king jack or king 10 or whatever. So that's those scenarios aside. Again, blockers in action. Three of a kind and straight. There's no straight. Three of a kind and full house. So we could bet with the three of a kind and hope from a call with an over pair. That's possible. And full house anyway will bet because they don't really, they aren't scared about quads so much. Like kings can absolutely go for that last bet. Apart from that, I don't think I'm gonna bet with the lower end of that spectrum.
Not weak pair, but ace highs are shoving as a bluff. No made hand. Oh, those are all their gut shots and open enders that whiffed. Let's say they're shoving there. Yeah, so they're shoving a pretty darn wide range. And at this point, we're
Are they
50-50,
supposed to?
and then we only
Probably.
need
Are they
23%
doing
equity
that
to call.
really?
Yeah, we've
I
got to
doubt
make the call
so.
because our pocket aces are winning 50% of the time. So they've got 51 combos, which is basically 98% of that turn range.
So here's the thing: when we start assigning good amount of bluffs in their range, even our middle of the range or not so great hands also seem like profitable calls. That's a little bit of a tricky situation to put ourselves in, because how do we find out their bluff frequency? And as we know, not many people are comfortable or actually are bluffing the river. So why would we assume that they are bluffing enough combos uh, into a paired board, into a three bet pot, which they have been passively just calling the bets right from pre-flop? So that's a little bit of a stretch for my thought process, current thought process.
All right. So at that point, I mean, if that's what we're putting on, we've got to make the call because we're ahead of all the bluffs that we think they're capable. Excuse me, capable of making.
Oh,
6-7. Holy cow! Hey, okay, awesome. Well, I narrowed myself well. The 6-7.
all right.
So that was in the pre-flop range. I think I took that out on the turn.
Yeah.
So if we look at the turn, let's remove that, remove this. I think this is where I remove the weak pairs.
Yeah.
Oh, let's unclick that. Okay, so the 7-6 is in. 7-6 was a weak pair. I took out weak pairs for calling the double barrel.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So this is
Why
interesting that now I have a pretty good note to make
Why
on
would they
Kayatic.
float
Queen
6-7?
6-7 suit. Okay, what is this here? Steal calls in position wide, 7-6 suited or better. Yep. We'll just say button. Steal calls in position with 7-6. Capable of overly aggressive plays when check to. So check for max value. kind of what I did here. Seems to
All
like
right.
flopped on. So some other information there. Yeah, so I think what I got to do is make a
Interesting.
note right here. Capable of calling double barrels in position with the third pair. Third pair, no
Wow.
draw. So planning to rep a bluff later.
Wow.
Check for max value. Okay. Good. Yeah, so that's absolutely true about this player. Oh, Positive Poker Insiders. Oh, hey,
Amazing.
thank you very much, Al. I appreciate it. I just now saw your comment. So, for those of you watching on YouTube, I stream these on Twitch, and Twitch, Al Spath just stopped by from Positive Poker Insiders and left a comment. So, thank you very much, Al. Up a wider range, so on the river, Queen of whatever it was.
That's awesome. I mean, yeah, you probably need to look into a lot more into making notes on such actions. Like this is a specific action, but the note seems pretty generic and tells us to do certain action against such players. Like they will hook on to whatever third pair plus in most scenarios. They will call off double barrels, and the best action on the river is to pass or to check the action to them so that they can barrel off a bluff from their end, which they seem to be doing more than a few times. So that's the way to get max value from them. They would probably fold if we barreled off the third time. So that's an interesting note making uh, procedure.
Was I don't remember hearts? Yeah, hearts.
I'm already
Um,
using some of the terminologies that he uses in my note making as well, but I just have some trouble in terms of if you observe a behavior where they donk lead a lot of times in a 3-bet pot, donk lead a lot of times in some particular pots with some showdowns. um, what note exactly are we making on them? Are we saying that they donk lead a lot of times, they donk lead with air or with nuts, or what do they exactly do? Because huh because taking lead in a 3-bet pot or donking in a 3-bet pot would automatically mean that they probably have something. It's polar again. They probably have something, or they just are trying to bluff us off that pot. And if they have absolute air and if they still try to bluff us, that could be sign of an overly aggressive play from their side.
on the river, we said that it's
Would
50.
also be interesting to understand how to play against such players when they donk lead into 3-bet pots. Even when we are in position, then we are put into tough spots by the donk lead, especially when we are planning to c bet into a 3-bet pot with like a standard 25% or something lesser than 30% sizing, and they just go at it with half pot or even potting the flop.
50-50 right now. They're betting for value or bluffs, and that's totally accurate. You can see we're 50% ahead right here with our overcard. I mean, actually, they have a lot more bluffs in their range, so I just need to remember that Kayatic, you can see it's a 40-29. I use the orange color coding for super loose aggressive players. Kayatic is loose aggressive. I need to be willing to call down with a lot of different bluff catchers, maybe
Hmm.
like second pair or better. I don't want to be calling like bottom
Wow.
pair. I don't want to
Okay.
be calling like a pair of fives here in this instance. But yeah, I think really Kayatic is a loose aggressive player that I need to watch out for. It's really good that on this table I have position. This is the
Hmm.
one hand when I'm in the small blind and Kayatic's on the button that I lose position or
Hmm.
that I don't have position. But in general, this is a great spot to be in. Look, another loose aggressive with position on me. Um, very loose aggressive. Nice loose passive fish here. Nitty so far, but it's only been 10 hands. Yeah, so this is a pretty decent table to be at. I'm not a big fan of a loose aggressive to my left, but they're a short stacker right here. So a little bit less of a concern when I can only lose $8 to this player. Alrighty, so I think that was a great hand. Even though it was
Solid.
unsuccessful, we took that out of their range. But hey, at least it was in their pre-flop range. We had it to 7-6
Nice.
suited, so that's a slight benefit there.
That's a solid session in my opinion. We pick up a lot of stuff to actually uh, think about and probably read a little bit more about in terms of how much would our opponent bluff. Probably I am underthinking a lot in terms of how much they would bluff. I do not assume that they would bluff so much, and ends up that they did bluff 6 7 6 suited, which even even Sky did not anticipate. I mean, that's a bit uh, exorbitantly wide. But anyway, if they do have bluffs in their range, they can have all sorts of bizarre bluffs in their range. If that's their tendency, they're going to do it with all sorts of hands, not just the hands that we imagine them doing it with. It makes sense to maybe having an ace of spade in our hand would make it a tough call. Hmm, let's
Their pre-flop and when I can only lose $8 to this.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, Pranjal. I mean, if we have an ace of spade, that would make it a tough call because then then they are not bluffing with a busted flush draw. That's a very nice line of thinking. That would make it difficult. Absolutely, would reduce a lot of bluffs in their range. Would reduce, mm, yeah, would reduce our equity in that case versus their overall range, like value and those reduced bluffs. So more value, less bluffs. So that's interesting line of thought. I Yeah, makes sense on this board definitely. But again, it would only marginally make it difficult. Giving it a second thought because on the flop we are only having a backdoor equity, and even on the turn we just pick up equity, and then on the river it gets busted, and it would pretty much if it was like this, like if it was queen, five of spade and seven of spade, and then king of whatever random king of diamonds or king of heart, and then queen of heart. Oh, then it would be definitely I would be 100% in agreement with what you're saying. But with backdoor flush draw, probably not that difficult. More difficult with 5 7 of spades on the flop. Less difficult with just one spade on the flop. That's how I would look at it. All right. So more bluffs in the range. Consider more bluffs in the range and consider more bluffs yourselves. Probably that's the takeaway from today's session. Let me see if we have any other notes that are worth sharing. So I've been making a good number of notes over here, guys, on the side. If you guys would like to discuss few of these, we can have another session to do that. This notes. No, it's active. Okay. All right. So we have been making a lot of notes on the days, and there are a few questions in terms of what happened there or what should we do or stuff like that. We definitely remember all of these since these are quite recent. So probably we can review these after we reach the middle point. How about that? We reach 33 days and we can review these probably on a Zoom call or whatever. If you guys haven't joined, we can quickly recap all of these in 1 or 2 hour session and talk about these if you guys are all interested to do that. If not, I've also reached out to Sky the smart poker study guy himself, and he had also talked about probably coming on stream and talking about a few of these things that we have on mind. So that will be an amazing session to have. Absolutely an amazing session if he can come along and answer a few questions that we have, like why would you consider this, why would you assume that they're going to bluff the river when they have played so passively and stuff like that. Probably all amateur or beginner queries, but hey, we start somewhere and we ask questions and we learn, right? So these are my takeaways so far. We look at how many flushes in opponent range. Out of those, how many are ace x's, nut flushes, how many are suited connectors. uh, Watching for all of this information on showdowns. How does our hand do versus top of their range? So that again defines choosing river bet size versus majority of their range. We focus a little bit on turn bets, no free river cards, and max value on the turn. I've written this, but I end up doing, you know, just letting the turn cards for free and end up rivering myself. That happened quite a lot of times, especially in the late game when we don't want to, push chips into the pot, end up giving free cards, and they make a pair on the river, and you lose a 6-5 BB pot. That hurts in the later stages of the game for sure. So set up a river jam, and yeah, think about. I'm actively thinking about these things in current games, most of these, if not all of them. And all right. So flop honest. All right, here's another uh, takeaway. C bet if they have call less than 33%, they are flop honest. If they C bet less than 50%, they are fairly flop honest. So all good stuff like this we can absolutely discuss amongst ourselves. If that's not happening, I would be very happy to invite Sky on the stream and have a discussion with him about this hand reading series, and some exercises that I plan to do. Probably discuss a few efficient ways of learning with him as well. And if we can have some crowd to ask him questions, or if we can join on Zoom and stuff, that'll be all the more awesome. We're in lockdown. We have some time to, uh, put towards the preparation of our game. We should make max EV of it. Am I right, or am I right? All right. So that does it for today. I think it was a very nice session. Thank you all for joining. Pranjal Raut, probably a new guy in, and a couple of other people also joining in, probably silent observers. Never mind. As long as we are learning, our goals are being smashed. Thank you so much for joining, and have fun at the fells. Bye bye.